I'm Shane.
And I'm Alex.
And this is Race Per Minute.
Hello, and thanks for joining us again for another launch reaction. And this time it's Red Bull, who they're still coming second every now and again. They still got a strength for that, whereas Haas beat them to it this time. I thought it was going to be Red Bull first again. I thought that was why they announced pretty early that they were going to come in. They got pipped to the post by Haas. So we're coming in chatting about the RB18 today. And we actually got a bit of a launch this time, unlike our first episode. And we're going to just be looking at what they talked about, look at the car, and talk a little bit about the technical stuff if we can, although I think everyone seems to be generally agreed that this is just a sort of show car that we're looking at here.
Yep.
I think Red Bull have always been pretty secretive with their, their secret liveries and their camouflages and all the rest of it. So I think they've continued that tradition pretty strongly by basically putting a livery on a show car. But we'll talk more about that in a moment. Let's start off by looking at the actual launch itself. And when you compare it to previous years, I don't really recall having a Red Bull launch quite like this in some time. I mean, last year they just dropped the livery and did a shakedown, I think.
Yep.
I can't really recall a time where they had this really sort of quite
confident. It's like a bold launch, wasn't it?
Yeah, they seem very very relaxed and very, confident is definitely the right word for it. They obviously come off the back of winning this title. And it started off with Max doing some donuts, and it had a bit of a swagger to it with their little intro. And it had a feel of a team that's back to its winning ways. I did think that it got a bit dry after that, where they had the two sort of presenters. I don't remember their names, but it sort of went into a bit more of a traditional, hey, I'm the guy that they're paying to sound really excited about this launch, and we're going to chat to Christian Horner and the drivers. And it was a bit more formal and not really what they'd done for a while. So what did you make of the whole sort of stream that they did?
So it was like a live stream. It was a live stream, but it was like an orchestrated live stream, wasn't it? I mean, I think they learned from last year that live streams don't always end well, because we saw Alpine had that colossal mess last year. So they thought, right, what we'll do is we'll live stream the video, but the stream itself is not live, if you get what I mean.
It's surely pre-recorded, right?
Yeah, it's all pre-recorded. So hopefully everyone understands what I mean. But I had a really good feeling starting to watch this launch. It was fresh. Obviously, it's the first, don't want to say proper launch of the year, because we've had Haas, but they just dropped 4 photos of a rendered car. This was people talking about the previous year, what's going on in the factory, what we can expect going into the 2022 season. It felt fresh. It felt exciting. It felt like Red Bull had stepped up. They've always been playing second fiddle to Mercedes for the last 6 or 7 years, and it just feels like they've got more confident, and now they're ready to present because they are world champions. And it was like, yes, we are back to our winning ways. We're ready to go. Let's show the world what we've got. You put a little asterisk next to that, because they didn't really show the world what they got at all, because like Alex alluded to earlier, none of these cars we see will probably make it to testing. They'll be completely different cars. But as a launch on a whole, I really enjoyed it. Completely understand what you mean about the presenters. They actually present the Red Bull Soapbox Challenge. So I think they're going for that high energy, high entertainment factor. Let's keep the fans involved, keep the fans engaged. Obviously, the stream itself was all about the fans. They mentioned that at the very beginning, that they're live streaming this to 50 creators, and then they're live streaming it to their fans. So it's all about fan engagement. And I certainly felt engaged for most of it. It did get a little bit dry in the middle, and then obviously it picked up at the end a little bit. But even so, towards the end, it was still a little bit on the dry side.
Yeah, they did the usual sort of bigging up of the team and talking about their achievement of beating Mercedes. So yeah, they were very happy to stamp their mark as new champions.
Very early on in the stream as well, they mentioned it. Early on in the stream, they're like, we fought right to the last lap last year and obviously took the world championship. And I was like, there was no way they were going to miss an opportunity, were they?
Yeah, well, they've earned it, I guess.
Rightly so.
Fair dues. So let's talk about what we learned in the stream then. So the first one is, of course, that they are now Oracle Red Bull Racing. They have this new title partners, Oracle being a sort of massive computer technology software company. They do cloud computing and databases and business software, that sort of thing. They talked about how they were going to help out with running more simulations more data for race strategy. And apparently they're going to be pretty key for helping out with the new engines that they're doing as well, because they help with doing the various simulations to do with how their new engine setup is going to work. And maybe that will be true for going into the future. Maybe they've got some long-term vision plan for when the engine regulations change again in the future. So they clearly thought ahead on this, and they've changed their name. Obviously, the last time they had a different title sponsor would be when they were, Tag Heuer, the watch. They're a watch company, aren't they? Tag Heuer. They're still a sponsor, but they're not a title sponsor.
When was Aston
anymore.
Martin? Was that a title sponsor? Aston Martin Red Bull Racing?
Aston Martin Red Bull, yeah, I think they were, weren't they?
Or
yeah.
Tag Heuer, Aston Martin Red Bull Racing. Okay, there's been a couple, hasn't there, recently? But it's always, always had Red Bull in it.
But
obviously.
now they're Oracle, so that's replaced the Red Bull on the side of the car as now their big sponsor. And they also talked a little bit about, they talked to Christian Horner. They talked a little bit about what's going to be new on the car, and they very, very carefully skirted around giving any actual real
yes, of course, yeah.
details. There's a few little sort of quote highlights for me, which is they rather clumsily at one point said, COVID's been a bit rubbish, hasn't it? Which is a bit of a clumsy understatement.
Yeah, it's been a global pandemic. It's been more than a bit rubbish.
Yeah, they sort of like summed up the whole thing like that. I thought that was a little bit clumsy. And I also rather liked, I've written it down here, can't help but notice the number 1 on the front of the, and this is said without a hint of irony, by the way.
Yes.
Can't help but notice the number 1 on the front of the car, Max. What was the thinking behind that?
I won the world champion. I won the world championship, so I'm going to use it.
Put the number 1 on the front.
Yeah.
Let's have a little think about that. So it was all a bit unrehearsed and not in a good way, but they were trying to do a slightly more serious setup, I suppose. Anything else that we learned in the stream?
Christian said that for the sport, this is probably the biggest rule change in about 30 years. So that is the kind of shake-up we're looking towards in 2022. But obviously, rules have changed over the last 10, 20, 30 years, but technology has been a little bit further away. So actually going into the new season, it's always been a little bit less predictable. But I guess with new sponsors, new data companies, new simulation methods, like you can start to really get a feel of how the car is going to behave and what the speeds will be like next year, way before the season has even started, before they've even hit the track. And interestingly as well, he said that this is the first year the powertrain and the car itself, the chassis, has been built from the same factory, because obviously in the past they've had Honda building the powertrain, and before that they had Renault building the powertrain, sometimes in different countries, well, mostly in different countries, and then Red Bull have been facilitating the building of the car in Milton Keynes. But this is the first time ever that these two components are being built in the same facility, and it does sound quite exciting, doesn't it? I mean, Red Bull have already got a fantastic car, but now they're bringing both those components together, and yeah, could be good for the team at least.
It must be very difficult for them and Mercedes as well, who obviously we'll see from them a bit later on, to have to develop this whole new car whilst also developing quite late into the last season in order to compete. So it'd be interesting to see whether that's had any impact. I mean, a team like Red Bull, and I'm sure this is true of Mercedes as well, they have a lot of resources and they have a lot of facilities, and maybe they already know how to work around that. But it must be very challenging to have to do all these new regulations because you have to do that quite far ahead. You have to have a real lead time on that sort of thing. So it'd be interesting to see what impact that has. The other thing that they had in the launch that was a bit odd is they seem to be quite concerned with being dull. And so they kept adding little countdown timers and reminders of what was coming next, which I thought was a bit odd. You could just not do that. That just struck me as a bit of an odd thing to do. But they're sort of so concerned about people losing focus and not paying attention that, don't worry, it's only 50 seconds to the next bit. It's just that was a bit of a strange thing to do.
Christian Horner, and then the drivers. I was like, well, hopefully we'll see them, given that it's their idea, car. Yeah. Christian did say,
they
one
did
last,
a lot of that sort of thing.
Yeah, one last thing on what Christian said. He said it's going to be a race of development for every team from the first race to the last, and that is something which is 100% true, because the field could have a massive spread going into race one. There's a huge possibility it might be, because we're going into a completely different era of regulations. But it's how those teams react. It's how those teams apply their limited budget going into the 2022 season, and how they how they develop their car for the first couple of races and then all the way through to the end, because we've seen what happens. Take McLaren for last year, for example. They had a great car for the first 3/4 of the season, or say the first half of the season. And then clearly there was that switch, wasn't there? There was that switch in focus for the next year. And then other cars slowly started to close the gap, more so Ferrari, and McLaren just didn't make those steps forwards towards the end of the season. This year, it's going to be even more apparent, I think, if cars don't develop in the right direction. And who knows what the right direction is? That's what's really exciting about this year, that for the last couple of years, we've always known what the right direction is. It's kind of what Mercedes have done, or, what Red Bull have done. This year, if something doesn't work, who knows what the right direction is? Just because a car wins one race in Bahrain does not mean it's going to win the next race, wherever that race may be. So teams have got to pick and choose where they develop their car, and I think it's really exciting.
Yeah, I hope that we see some interesting innovations come through from people dealing with the new regulations and cars trying different concepts and the like. And it'd be exciting to see how people work within the new parameters. But yeah, I think overall with the launch kind of presentation, for me, it started off with a sort of fun little bit of cool swagger, and then it suddenly became quite dry. And I was kind of hoping it would be more like the first bit for the whole thing. But, I guess they wanted, being sort of drivers champions, maybe they just wanted to be a bit more serious and present how serious they were being about the new season and how serious they are about holding on to that title and hopefully trying to get hold of a Constructors' Championship as well. So that was the whole thing, as well as a lot of emphasis on fans. They had the car with people must have tweeted them and they were going to put it all over the car.
Yeah,
projecting onto the car and that. So there was a lot of that and fan engagement, which if you're a Red Bull fan, must have been a lot of fun and looking for your tweets and all the rest of it. So it was good that they were engaging their supporters like that. That was nice to see. Okay, let's talk about the car in general. I think we're going to have to sort of mix together the technical and livery stuff here, because I don't know how much we can really say about the technical stuff. To me, this just looks like more or less the show car.
Yeah.
I mean, the wing and the front nose are a little bit different, I suppose, but
only marginally. Marginally.
There's just not really a whole lot to say because, again, as we said at the start, it's Red Bull. They tend to be very secretive about this stuff. So it's hard to really say anything about the technical side of it. All it really does is confirm what we saw with Haas, which is that the cars just look a lot simpler, and that there aren't, like Christian Horner was saying, there's not all these little bits and parts all over it, and it just seems to be a bit more straightforward, ground effect kind of cars. So not a whole lot to say on that. But Shane, when they were doing, then they're about to reveal the car, the guy said, "Strap yourselves in," and I was like, "Strap myself in for what? It's going to look like a Red Bull."
Yeah.
Having said that, I'm not obviously at all surprised that they've changed it, but what do you make of the new look? What do you make of the new Red Bull?
I quite like it. I love the Red Bull design. It's a new classic design, isn't it? I mean, Red Bull have been in the sport for a number of years now. We've come to know what the Red Bull likes. They have changed it in the past. They went from a purple to a blue. I know, striking. And now they stuck with that blue for the last couple of years. And, I think it's a good looking car. The livery hasn't changed much at all. The majority of the sponsors on the nose are in the same place. Obviously, they've got the new Oracle sponsor on the side. And instead of having Honda on the rear wing, it now says Red Bull. So, I mean, what else were people expecting? I think the biggest change is that it's got a number 1 on it and not a number 33, which they were surprised about in the studio. Why would you put number 1 on there, like we've already said?
Max says it looks better. It looks better than 33, they say.
Absolutely. Anyway, I've got a question for you, Alex. Comparing this to the 2021 car, talking about not the livery now, but the design and how the overall car looks, what are you starting to prefer? Where's your loyalty at?
What, compared to last year's
Red Bull?
Well, obviously they're very, very similar, other than the Oracle thing that you mentioned. Let's have a look at there, because we should mention as well, the last year's car's the RB16B, and this car is the RB18 because they wanted to maintain the name of the car to match the number of years they'd been in the sport.
Sure.
So that's why they've kept hold of it like that. So yeah, just taking a look at it, comparing it to the previous year, they have the sort of same red stripe. They've got the same bit there. All that sponsorship stuff is the same.
Yeah. But the actual design itself, not the livery, but the way the car looks from last year's set of rules and regulations to this year's set of rules and regulations, do you like the square boxy look from 2021, or do you like the new like curved?
Oh yeah, no, I like the new look. Yeah,
yeah.
I think I think it looks good. But and it has much bigger tires on it as well. And I mean, in general, the cars are just very big and heavy, and we've talked before about how it's difficult to avoid that in a way because of the way the engines are, and if it were this but smaller and lighter, I think that would be absolutely
incredible.
Just smacking my microphone in excitement. I think that would be absolutely wonderful. Like if they were that, but just smaller and lighter and a bit closer to the very dancey cars that we saw in the sort of 2000s and 90s. But it is what it is. It's hybrid power, but I like it. I like the curved look. And I agree with you as well that it is an iconic livery now. It's just that's what Red Bulls look like. It's like Ferrari. It's the iconic look of that team. I don't see any reason why they should change it. It's not likely to change anytime soon. I don't see any motivation for them to do it. So, and it's not like they bring in sponsors that might say, "Oh, we want something else," because Red Bull themselves are, they are a company with a very specific and very standardized look to all of the teams and various things that they have. Like if you look at the teams that they sponsor in the feeder series, they all look like this as well. So yeah, they've got their consistent look. It looks good. It's not going to change. It just means that there's not a whole lot to talk about in terms of livery so far because we've had two cars that haven't changed. So I think for the sake of interest, I can't help but feel that we're hoping that some teams push the boat out a bit and go for something completely different, which I think at least someone will, hopefully.
There is potential. Well, maybe, yeah. I think one or two will, and I'm looking forward to those. I'll be disappointed if they don't, basically. But
you do think that, like, new era of regulations, someone's got to just try something completely different. That would be nice.
I think Aston Martin might, and I also think Alpine might. Potentially.
Williams
maybe
as
Alfa
well.
Romeo, Williams. Those teams. I can't see McLaren changing because they've gone back to that iconic like papaya orange. I was going to say green then for some reason. That would
supposedly Mercedes are going silver again, aren't they?
Apparently so. But George Russell had a photo taken of him the other day in a black Mercedes suit. So maybe they're keeping the suits black, but the car silver. Who knows? We'll find out later on this week or next week. I'm sure. But that's it. That's all I've got to say about the Red Bull.
Yeah, there's not too much to add, is there? Just in terms of car and livery, we just can't really add much to it. But it was nice that they did a full little presentation and it was something a bit different.
It was nice to have a presentation, which also was, as much as it may have been dry towards the end, it ran smoothly. Because last year we had many technical hiccups and that kind of ruined the launches for many because of obviously COVID. Not many companies could get together and showcase their cars. So I'm glad that's something... Yeah, I'm glad it went well and I'm glad it was smooth and that they did what they wanted to do.
But it is a bit more entertaining when things go wrong.
It is, I guess.
It was really funny watching that Alpine launch last year.
I'm surprised they haven't scrubbed that from the internet because it was terrible. Even like the on-demand one was terrible. So
don't forget when it's on the internet, it's on the internet forever. So we'll always remember it, at the very least. Okay, well, that's... there it is then. The RB18, the new challenger. Can they hold on to the Drivers' Championship? Can they grab themselves a Constructors' Championship? It's not too long until we get to find out.
Right, guys. Thank you very much for listening to our launch reaction for the RB18. Like Alex said, it's going to be a good year and just can't wait. 2022 is shaping up to be a great year. We've only had 2 car launches, but if you've got any thoughts or questions, then you can tweet us at RacePerMinute on Twitter, or you can get in touch at RacePerMinute.com. And if you're watching on YouTube, hello, and you're more than welcome to comment below, and we'll do our best to get back to you. If you've enjoyed this episode, please give us a rating or a like wherever you get Race Per Minute. Honestly, a 5-star rating or a 4-star rating or a thumbs up really drives this algorithm. And honestly, after a couple of likes, the video seems to get pushed a little bit further, doesn't it? You can tell when a couple more likes drop in, then that reach gets a little bit further, and that's what we love to see. We just like talking to you guys and hearing what you guys have to say. And if you like what we do, then please consider subscribing for more wherever you're getting Race Per Minute. And if you really want to support the show and help keep the quality content coming and receive some lovely rewards, you can do by donating as little as £1 a month at patreon.com/RacePerMinute. Now, Alex, I'm going to stitch you up like you stitched me up last time. What is the next launch reaction? Or what is the next launch? Is it Aston Martin? And when is it?
Tomorrow, at the time of recording.
Oh, see you tomorrow then.
And it's McLaren after that on Friday.
Very good. Can't wait. It's going to be a busy week, but this is how I like our weeks. Lots of content, lots of things to talk about. Oh, should be good. Fingers crossed for Aston Martin then, something different.
Yeah, well, it will take the first half of the episode to say the name of their team, and then the other half we can talk about what they get up to. But I'm looking forward to that, and we hope that you'll join us for those as well. So we'll see you again soon.
See you soon.